Welcome to Emotions and Eating with Nicola Beer. Nicola controlled her feelings using food for 25 years, so she knows how draining it is to be constantly thinking about or acting out with food. Thankfully, having made an amazing breakthrough in her recovery, her mission became about helping others escape the unsatisfying cycle of frustration and self-medication with food. Nicola is determined to help you find your inner strength so you can be healthy, gain confidence, feel great, and be at peace with yourself and food.
Hi and welcome. I'm so happy you're here for part 3 of how to stop late eating at night and binge eating. And here we're going to be focusing on what the eating is costing you. What overeating at night or binge eating costs us emotionally, physically, mentally and spiritually. In order to change something that has been giving us some benefit in the past, we need to have a strong enough reason to change. This means looking at the pain of continuing in the behaviour. You're probably lax about overeating at night time and binge eating because you're avoiding looking at the damage and harm it is causing you. This isn't always the case, but often it is. So let's look at the effects overeating can have on the mind, body and soul. The first is the physiological stress on the body. According to Dr. Berg, overeating puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the body. It completely drains our system and therefore drains our minds and happiness. Short-term effects of overeating on the body can be the stomach expands beyond its normal size to adjust to the large amount of food, and this expanded stomach can push against our organs, making it feel uncomfortable. This discomfort can take the form of feeling tired, sluggish or drowsy, and you may feel that your clothes feel too tight. Eating too much food requires also your organs to work harder. They have to secrete extra hormones and enzymes to break down the food. So again, feeling drained and tired is common here. To break down the food, the stomach produces hydrochloric acid, and if you overeat, this acid may back up into the esophagus, resulting in heartburn and that horrible acid reflux. Consuming too much food that is high in acid make you as well more susceptible to heartburn, and all kind of the processed foods that we eat are all very acidic, and at night often this is what most people that eat late at night tend to be eating, processed foods. And in an attempt to cope, your stomach may also produce the gas, leaving you with that awful sort of uncomfortable, gassy, full feeling. Also, it's quite common that metabolism can speed up to burn off the extra calories, and this is where people may experience that temporary feeling or being hot, sweaty, or even dizzy. And then there is sleep. The greater problem with overeating at night is the effect it has on our sleep. Overloading our digestive system at night can cause us to wake up feeling stressed, tired, cranky, and this is awful. I think sleep deprivation is probably one of the single biggest factors that affects mood. And then our mood impacts how we interact with others, and this then can impact our relationships with others, and it can just spiral into a whole downward cycle. It's horrible to not sleep. And I was doing that on a daily basis where I was just overloading myself with food, eating just before it was bedtime, and then tossing and turning all night. And the reason it does this is because your circadian clock, which controls sleep cycles, is affected, and we can get out of our natural rhythm because overeating can just throw this clock out of sync. And many people find that they wake up in the night, they wake up early, or they can't get off to sleep. And then the long-term effects of overeating, so those are the short-term, are obviously the weight gain. Weight gain in and of itself isn't a problem. But we know if we are eating in a way that isn't in line with our intuition and listening to the body's cues of hunger and fullness, then we'll be overriding the natural way of our bodies like to function. and perhaps messing with our set point. It can also lead to imbalances of hunger and satiety hormones. So this has the same knock-on effect. It makes it even more difficult to recognise when we're truly hungry or truly satisfied. And as we already know, when we eat, our body uses some of the calories that we consume for energy, and the rest are stored for fat. So most people obviously know that. But when we consume more and more calories at night, for obvious reasons, this can cause us to become weight or obese. And it also is more affected at night because if we eat large quantities in a small space of time, it means that the food will stay in the stomach for a longer period of time because it needs more time to digest. And according to experts in this field that know all about how our digestive system works, this then makes it more likely to turn into fat because you're eating a larger quantity, the food is staying there for a long time, it's not being used, and it's going to then go into fat. So these are the weight gain, and on top of the weight gain, we have to acknowledge that weight gain has been linked to many chronic health problems, mobility problems, long-term serious illnesses. So it really is a horrible kind of feeling. So whilst we've talked about the short-term physical stresses that overeating brings, gas, bloatedness, sometimes people feel sick or have constipation, the long-term, that it's weight gain and this can lead to serious illnesses, there's also the high emotional and mental distress that late night eating and binge eating can bring on. Emotional wise, it can lead to anxiety. Studies have shown that certain types of food and eating a certain amount of food can cause anxiety. There can also be the guilt of overeating, the stress of being stressed and angry at yourself. And then there's that lack of self-respect that some people have when they eat in certain ways, which again is eroding the self. And I know, it's a horrible feeling to promise yourself something like, right, I'm only going to have vegetables and protein and whatever dish it is that you're going to eat tonight, and that's it. I'm not going to have any extra snacks, I'm just going to have this meal. Or saying to yourself, I'm going to stop eating after 8. Or saying to yourself, right, I'm definitely not going to have any wine tonight. I'm definitely not going to have any sweets or no cheese tonight. Only to find yourself making excuses throughout the day for why you deserve it or why you're going to do that. Or maybe you say, no, I'm not, and then you walk in the door and it ends up happening. You say, oh, who cares? Or I'll start tomorrow. Or maybe you manage to stop for 2 or 3 nights and then go back to your old cycle after that. I know that I tried for years to change. And I really did think for a long time that I probably couldn't change it. And so it is important to realise that you absolutely can change it, and that is exactly why I'm here, to sharing this with you. It doesn't matter what the past is. The past does not equal the future. What you did yesterday does not have to mean you're going to do the same thing today. It's important to get to a point where you're saying to yourself right now, I must change. I don't want to have these emotional or physical symptoms of overeating. I want to be free. I want to feel good. I want to feel in control. I want to feel empowered and able to choose what I think about, what I eat, what I do, how I feel. And that's why we're spending some time looking at what are the costs of carrying on the way that you are. And if you're in that phase at the moment where you think, well, it's getting me through a difficult time, it's getting me through a certain circumstance that you're going through, it's temporary, well then, that's up to you. For a lot of people, they wanted to change months ago, weeks ago, sometimes even years ago, and they haven't been able to change. And then we can look at why you want to change. As we discovered in step 2, all the benefits of changing. As we don't really change anything we try to change or wish to change, we only change things that are really important for us to change. So that's why we're spending some time today looking at what are the costs and the consequences. I know that for me, my excuse for overeating was that I wanted to reward myself because I was a bit of a workaholic. I was working all day and weekends and long hours, and I thought I was going to reward myself with food. And then to change that, I needed to think about, okay, what am I going to reward myself with instead? Now I reward myself with exercise, with engaging with other people, connection and love. Before, I used to keep myself at home glued to the screens. Food used to be my treat, my comfort, my friend, and I thought it was a benefit to me because the working long hours meant more money. But the pain of overeating at night was horrible and far worse. I felt bloated, tired, with poor sleep, full, because I'd eat sugar just before I went to bed, and I was tossing and turning, and I'd wake up in the morning feeling tired and full of annoyance that I'd eaten so much again. Sometimes I'd chuck out the food or give it away, only to buy it again that evening and repeat the cycle. The food also made me feel full when I felt empty inside, because at the time I was not doing the work that I love like I am now. So a feeling of emptiness was causing me to also eat this food. I was in a job that didn't align with my values and personality. So when I work with somebody, even when I work with them on their eating, we look at all areas of their life. We don't just focus on the food. It's not a weight loss or a diet program. When people engage with me one-on-one, we look at how to create more love, more passion in their life. How to align their life with their personality, their goals, their dreams. What do they want their relationships to look like? Their career, like their whole life. What do they want to change? And then we look at how to make that change. When I started to shift my life in my habits and eating patterns and really felt the feelings that I was feeling, I was then able to change. And I get to see people completely change everything about their lives again and again. In the next part, we're going to be looking at feeling and dealing with the feelings underneath emotional eating. Now, you may be an emotional eater, you may not be an emotional eater. Most people that I've worked with, and from my research and from working in this field, and from my own personal experience, I was eating for 2 reasons. One, I had an addiction to sugar, and this overeating was just a cycle of the physical craving being awakened. And secondly, I was emotionally addicted. I was using food to give myself a reward. I was using food to escape the fact that I felt lonely and empty. I was using food as a comfort, as like a companion. I was using food as something to look forward to, rather than things that really mean things in life, like loving, engaging moments with other people, achieving something, doing something for your body or for yourself that's really nurturing and loving. Because it's an illusion that sugar, that high oily foods are a comfort. They're not really giving us anything. And I also was trying to distract away from the fact that I felt not good enough. Why aren't my relationships working? What's wrong with me? And fearful. Am I going to survive financially? Am I going to make it? So all of these emotional elements need to be felt in order to be processed. And it's not easy, and we're going to be covering that again in the last part. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. I am really going to give you some tools, but I want to also say that feeling feelings is brave. It's brave to put the food away. It's brave to change the habit and be there, kind of like naked with yourself and emotions. And I want you to know that I really, really care about you from my